Kash Patel and his burn bags. Now, what the heck is a burn bag? We're going to get to that in a second. But let's just say, suffice it to say, Kash has a lot of them. Like thousands of documents that he has found inside the Hoover building in these so-called burn bags. And this is all related to, remember, drum roll please, Crossfire Hurricane. Crossfire Hurricane, which is an investigation that I consider to be tremendously important, an investigation that, frankly, I lived through, right? We were going through all this on the front lines. We had to go through Russia, the dossier. Oh my gosh, you know, poor George Papadopoulos, who is a friend of mine who was targeted multiple times by the Comey operation. Comey thought it was kind of funny. You know, they went after everyone that they could. Carter Page getting spied upon during the campaign from Trump Tower. I'll never forget how angry Trump was over that. I mean, it just went on and on and on and on. It turns out it was all concocted stuff. Why? One, they wanted to spy on the campaign, and two, once he got in there, once they realized the American people actually wanted Donald Trump, you know who? That would be Barack Obama. He couldn't take it. I mean, his poor ego, not to mention Hillary Clinton's ego. I mean, they're like, what the heck happened? How did this guy come out of nowhere and suddenly steal it from us? Oh, it must have been the Russians. Except it wasn't. It wasn't the Russians. And this is what is coming out. Patel has found thousands of sensitive Trump-Russia probe documents right inside those burn bags, inside the Hoover building, inside FBI headquarters, secret room on top of it all. He talked about this actually on Joe Rogan's show. I want to play you a brief clip. Listen.
Me, as the director of the FBI, the former Russiagate guy, when I first got to the Bureau, found a room that Comey and others hid from the world in the Hoover building, full of documents and computer hard drives that no one had ever seen or heard of. Locked the key and hid access and just said, no one's ever going to find this place.
What?
Yeah. So my guys are going through that right now.
Yep.
What's in there?
A lot of stuff. I mean, that's the thing. People are like, well, okay, go arrest him. And I'm like, okay, well, how about you let me run a methodical investigation?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta do that, right? Like, you can't just go out and arrest everybody. And I know everybody wants that, by the way. And I'm just gonna say, I'm anxious for that too, but I'm also a patient person and I want this to be done right. So they've just found these documents. You've got to go through them. You've got to see what's there. We saw 114 pages from Tulsi the other day, plus she came forward with more. What did we learn? Well, we learned, for one thing, that Putin had a whole bunch of intel that never got released on Hillary Clinton. I mean, now it makes sense when you saw that she was so unsteady getting into the car at times, when she'd laugh hysterically, when she seemed to have this raging like temper. It all kind of makes sense, especially when you see the intel that the Russians had on her. They were never going to allow that out. Instead, they fed the American public a whole bunch of garbage. And so he's not there saying, and in fact, he told Joe, he's like, look, you know, I was super surprised. I mean, because think about it. I was the former Russiagate guy. Don't forget, he was investigating all of this stuff when he was there first time around, Kash Patel. And he wanted all this information so much so that even after the election, you'll recall that Donald Trump sued Hillary Clinton and he sued the whole Obama team to try and get some of this information on Russiagate, or Crossfire Hurricane, which we're now calling it. And the whole idea, if you talk to Kash at the time, was that they wanted the discovery. They wanted to be able to get the evidence. They wanted to know what was there. And now, ladies and gentlemen, bum, 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 drum roll, please, they have it. They have it. And they have it in thousands of bags. They have what Tulsi was able to bring forward the other day. And this is a big deal. This is a big, big deal. And it's good that they have it, and it's good that somebody hung on to this stuff. I'm surprised it wasn't all put through the paper shredder, right? The burn bag, as they call it. You know, I didn't really know what a burn bag was. I'm thinking burn book from Mean Girls. You know, I got daughters. The Lindsay Lohan movie. It's funny. It's cute. Anyway, yeah, so I'm like, burn bag. But that's apparently a term that's used in the intel community. I don't know how familiar President Trump was with the term. He was asked about it. He's like, what are you talking about? Yesterday afternoon, I want to play you a quick clip. Here we go.
Kash Patel reportedly found burn bags of Russian.
She's like, what are the burn bags that the Russians had?
You said what?
Say what?
Materials.
I don't know that. I don't know what you mean by that statement. Say
bags full of Russiagate
a
documents.
burn bag. I thought you said appointed a man named Burn Bag.
Okay, so he said, I thought you meant as somebody appointed, a guy named Bernbag. He went on to say in that same conversation, well, obviously it should all come out. Everything should come out. We should know everything we possibly can, right? We deserve to know it. In fact, believe me, he wants some accountability. He's putting this stuff out. Do you see his, oh, this is True Social. We got one on each side here. He writes in one of them, until this happens, meaning everybody behind bars, nothing will change. He also says in one of them, it is time to indict Obama, the traitor, for treason. Okay, so he is out for blood. I can tell you this is a very different Donald Trump than the first time around. I know him well. I repeatedly asked him during the first term, President Trump, why not go after Hillary Clinton for all of this? And he was like, I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. Like, that feels very Banana Republic-like to me. We don't do that kind of thing in America. She was married to a former president. She ran for the presidency. He kind of just wanted to move on. But the problem is, he tried to move on, and he couldn't move on. He couldn't move on because they did their Russia thing, and they get the dossier, and they made a whole bunch of stuff up, as we are now for sure learning. And so as a result of that, yeah, he's coming back, and he's saying, if not for me, for everybody else, for the future of this country, you cannot do this kind of stuff. You just can't. So if you're asking, by the way, what the heck a burn bag is, like I was, it's something that Glenn Beck was curious about as well. Let's go to his soundbite with Tulsi Gabbard here, who explains it. Listen in, Tulsi, on what a burn bag is and why this is so significant right now in this point in time.
In the wrong hands, that there's not
Fox News had an exclusive that said Kash Patel found thousands of sensitive documents related to the origins of the Trump-Russia probe buried in multiple burn bags in secret rooms inside the Bureau. What's a burn bag?
A burn bag is something that you'll find in many offices throughout the intelligence community, throughout these different workspaces in national security. Basically, if I have a document that's highly classified, I read it, I review it, I'm done with it. My copy can then go in the burn bag to make sure that it's not doesn't end up in the wrong hands, that there's not an unauthorized disclosure of classified information. It's a very different story, however, if you use a burn bag to try to get rid of evidence of which maybe there is only one copy of, and then hide it in a secret room in the FBI. That is a tactic, obviously, that has been used by those deep staters, these bad actors within the intelligence community to try to get rid of evidence. Another tactic that's often used is over-classifying information. This is what happened with the Steele dossier. This was already widely publicized as a discredited document. But what John Brennan did and James Clapper did as the CIA director and the Obama's director of national intelligence, they didn't want anybody to know that they used the Steele dossier as a source for this intelligence assessment that was filled with falsehoods they published in January of 2017, as well as other really, really shoddy intelligence sources that would not be acceptable to be used on any topic because they were not deemed credible. They wanted to hide all of this from members of Congress, perhaps, who were reading this, and the American people, and President Trump, then President-elect Trump at that time. And so they overclassified it in a way that there were less than 10 people who could access it. Jeez. And then they locked up the only hard copy documents. This document did not exist on digits. The document that actually exposed, this was the document that we released. Right. They locked that document up and the 5 copies that existed in a safe. And the first time it had been seen, certainly in public, but even by many within the government, was when we released it about a week ago.
Wow, 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 wow. Thanks to Glenn for that over at Blaze. So, I'm going to tell you something. I love my country. I love my country dearly. And I actually have a ton of faith, or used to anyway, in my country. I mean, it's being restored as we speak. But what I've learned over the last 8 years has actually been so cutting and so disturbing. And I'm thinking about Dan's tweet the other day, Dan Bongino. I know we thought he was talking about something else. But I think he was actually in some ways talking about this, because you can't actually run a republic, as he said, with this kind of stuff going on. You can't be locking away documents and throwing away the key. You can't be trying to bury things. You can't be trying to concoct things. I almost feel like this was something that came out of the Ben Rhodes era during Obama. Remember Ben Rhodes, who was his like number two there, his enforcer, if you would, who had this idea. If you just kept repeating a story enough among the reporting circle, the reporting elites, that somehow it would be reinforced and people would actually start to believe it. You start to believe your own BS because you just keep telling it to this one and that one. And all of a sudden there's this like circle of information where, oh, I heard that. And then you heard that. And this is partly what they were doing, of course, with the dossier. I read the dossier, guys, okay, because this was out there. And I was like, well, this is a bunch of garbage. For goodness sakes, this is not any kind of intel. Are you kidding me? There's no way. There's no how. Like, and by the way, why doesn't anybody in our intelligence department decide to actually source any of it? Like, what would I do as a journalist? I get something like that. One, I want to know where it came from. Oh, Hillary Clinton's campaign. There you go. That's all you need to know, okay? So you got to understand the bias, first of all. Second of all, not only do you need to know where it came from, you got to actually then go forward and do your own due diligence to see if it's even true. But nobody did that. Instead, they used that to get a FISA warrant on Carter Page. They used that as a reason to say, okay, well, we're going to try and bump all these people on the Trump campaign. George Papadopoulos being one of them. I mean, this kind of stuff was just bad, right? And then they took it further. Before you knew it, after Donald Trump won, they had on December 8th in the Oval Office, according to new documents put forward by Tulsi Gabbard just last week, they assembled their team and they got together an Intel community directive, even though people in the Intel community had said to them, this probably didn't quite happen. The Russians weren't actually able to interfere the way you guys would like to think that they interfered. But nope, that didn't matter. Truth didn't matter, you see, because they wanted a narrative. And they took that narrative and they took it and they played it and they played it and they played it over and over and over again, like Rhodes told them to, right? The enforcer for Obama. He ought to be asked to talk in front of Congress. I want all these people testifying, every stinking last one of them. You got it? Because I had to sit there like you and listen to this and say, what the heck are they doing?
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do. We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
The one thing that Trump is fearful of when it comes to his being president is that finally we will see how illegitimate his victory actually was.
I have an objection.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina. I object because people are horrified.
He's an illegitimate president.
Oh, you guys are just disgusting human beings willing to trash our country for the sake of your own damn power. That's what that was. Okay? There's actually 24 minutes of it. There's a 10-minute clip and there's a 24-minute clip. One of you guys was asking me about it in the comments. I read all the comments, by the way. And I actually sent you the link on Twitter to at least the 10-minute clip. There's a 24-minute one, too, for those of you that really want to indulge in it. I mean, it just makes me sick. It makes me too angry. As we say, I get my Irish up. And I'm going to move on from the Democrats doing that. But my point is only that we can't forget that they did that. We can't forget that they sold us a bunch of lies. And to Donald Trump, the president of the United States, now point, he's looking at maybe indicting Obama. He's calling it treason. I'll tell you who else is calling it treason. None other than Tulsi Gabbard. Because to her, it's treasonous that you would actually want to undermine the will of the United States people. I mean, they elected him. Why can't you let him hit the ground running? Why do you have to tear him down? Oh, because you don't like that he won. You are jealous that he won. You have such a big frickin' ego for a skinny guy, Obama, that you can't take it. And Hillary Clinton, well, I've never gotten her. I mean, who the heck would ever stay married to Bill under the circumstances? But she's her own special version of special. And so he's saying, none of this is going to change until these people face that accountability. And I've told you before that I've spoken to him about this. I mean, why didn't you do it first time around, Mr. President? And he's like, look, she was married to a former president of the United States. I ran against her. I don't want to be like a banana republic. Nobody wants us to be that. Like I said, I had faith in my country up until the last few years where I realized what they were willing to do. You know what they were willing to do. We all saw it in real time, for goodness sakes. Well, now we're going to get some accountability. You better believe it. There's going to be some heads that roll. I have no doubt the indictments are coming. Kash Patel going through those burn bags as we speak with his team, and something's going to give. Tulsi wants it. John Radcliffe from the CIA wants it. Kash Patel from the FBI wants it. Dan Bongino, also at FBI, wants it. And the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, wants it. Listen to John Radcliffe here.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. DNI Gabbard has made referrals, and why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word
treason was what she went on to say. Tulsi used the word treason. President Trump has used the word treason. Because when you are trying to do everything you can to set back a president that the American people elected, I mean, is that not some version of treason? Again, get over your politics, people. You lost, okay? Be a good sport. Move on. Try to find areas where you can work together for the sake of the country, for the sake of the economy, for the sake of our national security. And yet nobody was willing to do that because they all had some you-know-what up there, you-know-what's, because it was Donald Trump. Okay? And, we never heard about all the intel that they'd been collecting on Hillary Clinton. Oh, yeah. So, if I'm just saying, if Putin really wanted to take her down, you don't think he would have gone with the internal claims? Courtesy of page 17, thanks to Tulsi, of the Russian intel that Hillary was on, quote, heavily tranquilizers and suffering, quote, intensified psycho-emotional problems, that there was evidence of severe health issues. I mean, I'm just saying, if the Russians really, really wanted to make her life difficult, I think they certainly could have in a bigger way. But what we've learned is they didn't really care who necessarily won anything. They just kind of wanted to play with us. And play with us they did. Indeed, they did, because, heck, it didn't take much. Obama was willing to play all day long. This was his game, right? He was willing, though he did Putin's job for him. That's the tragedy of all of this.